Hello everybody and welcome once again to Python with Obinkojo. Today we will be looking at Booleans and comparison operators in Python. So what are Booleans in the first place? In Python we see that the Boolean is a built-in data type that represents one or two possible values. So a Boolean either represents true or it represents false. And most often we use Booleans in conditional expressions and in control flow statements like if else statement, for loops, while loops. That is mostly when we implement Booleans. We'll get to understand that later on. I think we've seen most of it earlier. And again, numerically in Python, true is represented by 1, and then false is represented by 0. And I would want to also let you know that the keyword true and false are case sensitive and must always have an uppercase as its first letter. Anything other than that would result in something different. Okay, so comparison operators, they can also be called relational operators, and they are basically used to compare two operands. So that's why I think the name speaks for itself. And any expression that involves comparison operator is called a Boolean expression. That is why we are studying the two together. Whenever we use a comparison operator to compare two operands, we end up getting either true or false. So that is what it means. And these are the basic comparison operators that we have: equal to, not equal to, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, and then less than or equal to. Now let's jump straight into Jupyter Notebooks to really get to understand this better. All right, so we are right in our Jupyter Notebook. So let's see how we can create a Boolean. So I'm just going to create two variables. One is x, and I'm just going to assign the value true to it. Just observe how it highlights, telling you that this is a Boolean. And I'm going to create the next one, and I'm just going to say false. Good. So if we go ahead and then we check x, we end up getting true. If we check y, we end up getting false. So that is how simple it is to create Boolean values. Okay, so let's quickly look at, as we said, we'll be looking at Booleans and comparison operators together. So I'm just going to say 75 is greater than that, and logically we know that this is a false statement. So if we run this, we would end up getting a false statement. If I go ahead and I do equal and I run this, I'm going to get a false statement because logically this is false. Let me go ahead and try with string, comparing two strings. So I'll say name is equal to name, and I run that. And okay, so it's supposed to be an equal. We are doing an assignment, so this is for equality. So let's run that again, and we end up getting false. Why? Name, this one begins with a small letter, that begins with a capital letter. Therefore, they are two different. They are not the same. So we end up getting a Boolean expression false. Let us look at some special Boolean operations that we can perform. In Python, these are the three Boolean operations that we will look at. We are looking at the AND operator, the OR operator, and then the last one, the NOT operator. Okay, so what is the AND operator? In Python, we say that whenever we use an AND operator, it is going to return true value for us. It's going to return a Boolean true if both sides of the operand is true. If both sides are true, So whenever we say, let's say A and B, we can only get a true value when A is true and B is true. Both sides must be true to get a true value. What it implies is that the moment B is false, we are going to end up getting a false value. when we end up having A to be false, would end up, if A is false and then B is false, we'll end up getting still a false value. When A is false and then B is false, we'll end up getting another false value. So the only condition that satisfies a true value for an AND operator is that both sides, A must be true and B must be true, to be able to get a true value. So that is what the AND operator does. We'll be looking at that later on. So that is the basic explanation. Let me just go ahead and then create. I'm not going to run that because it's going to give me an error. Now let us look at the OR operator. So the next one we are looking at is the OR operator. So in case with OR, if I have A and I say OR B, at least one of the operands must be true. Otherwise, we are going to get a false value. So OR says that either A or B must be true to get a true value. So let us just look at it again. So we have the first option. We have true or. So if A is true and B is false, OR says that either one side must be true. So since A is true, we are going to get a true value. Let's go ahead and say, let's say A is false or B is true. Because one side is true, we are going to get a true value. Let's look at the next one. We have false and then we have false. So if A is false and B is false, since neither side is true, we are going to have a false value. Sorry, let me just bring the equal sign here. Let's look at the last one. We have true or true. True or true is going to give us true because at least one side is true. So that is the statement for all. When one side is true, the answer will always be true. If we are fortunate and both sides are true, we end up getting true as well. All right. So the only condition that gives us false with OR statement is when both sides are false. Now let us go ahead and then look at the last one. Not. It returns the negation of the Boolean expression, of any Boolean expression. So if you have true and you say not true, you are going to get false. If you say not false, you are going to get true. So I'm just going to say, let me just, there's not much to talk about with this. So I'm just going to say not true. We know that true will always return true. If I say not true, I end up getting false. If I go ahead and reverse this and say not false, we end up getting true. So these are the three operators, Boolean operators, that I would want you to have in mind. We mostly use these operators in conjunction with our comparison operators to be able to have a complex statement. All right, let's jump into comparison operators. Comparison operators. So we're just going to look at the very first one, the equal sign, which we all know, we've seen already. So if I have 5 is equal to 5, we are always going to have true value. The equal sign checks if two values are equal. So that is all. That is the basic mathematics. So if I run this, I'm going to get E true. So when both sides are true, we are going to get true. If I happen to do this, it's checking if both sides are true. If they are not equal, it's going to return false. The next one is not equal. So I'm just going to say 5 is not equal to 5. So the not equal, what it does is it checks if two values are not equal. So are these not equal? Yeah, they are equal. So we are going to get false because it's saying, is it not equal? Then let's go ahead and check 5 not equal to 10. These are basic mathematics, and we all know we are going to get true for that. Let's look at less than first. So I'll just say 5 is less than 10, and we are going to get false. If I say 10 10 is less than 5, we are going to get a true value. And the next one, let's look at greater than. So greater than, I'll repeat the same stuff. 5 is greater than 10, and that is going to give us false. And if I say 10 is greater than 5, we are going to get true. We're going to look at greater than or equal to. So I'm just going to say 10 is greater than or equal to. And I would say 5. And that is going to give us true because 10 is greater than or equal to 5. And I'm just going to turn it. I'm going to say 5. Let's say 5 is greater than or equal to 5. And that is going to give us true as well because 5 is either greater than or equal to 5. If I do, then that is that. Let's just look at the last one that is less than or equal to. So I'm just going to say 5 is less than or equal to 10. And we know we're going to get true for that. If I do 10 is less than or equal to 5, we are going to get a false value for that. All right, so I'm going to create a variable in x, and I'm going to assign the value 5 to it. Now we are going to, all right, let's look at how we can chain these comparison operators. So we are going to combine these comparison operators that we have here, and we are going to, and then Boolean operators, the and, or, and the not. Right. So I have a variable x, and I've assigned the value 5 to it. Now I'm going to have this expression. I'll just paste it here. So I have two expressions, one to the left and one to the right of end. The first one says 1 is less than x. Is it true? I think that is true because 1 is less than 5. And then the one to the right says x is less than 10, which is also true. Remember, AND operator will return true only when both sides are true. So if I run this, we end up getting true because the left side of the operand is true and the right side is also true. Now let me just go ahead and tweak this and make this, let's say 10, and say 10 is less than 5. That is x, the value of x is 5. So at this point, this is false, and that is true. If I run this, I'm going to get a false because and whenever one side is false, we get a false statement. If I go ahead and I make this also false, definitely we'll get a false statement. All right, let us go ahead and say all, and then run this again. This gives us true because one side of this equation is true. So at the right side of all, this is true, that is false. We are going to get true at all times. If I go ahead and change that to 1 again, and we run that, we are going to get true because at this point, both sides are true, and we are always going to get our true value. Okay, let me just try one more. Well, let me see, let me just say z is equal to 150, and right beneath that, I'm going to say z is less than 0, or z is greater than 100. Now let us look at this. The left side of the equation says z is less than 0, which is false. So we have false here, and then the right side says z is greater than, and that is true. Remember, all will return true whenever one side is true. We run this, we are going to get true. If I change this to end would only return true when both sides are true. And because the left side is false, if I run this, I'm going to get false. So these are the basics of these chained how we can chain these comparison operators. We'll be looking at much of that later on. Thank you for joining today. Don't forget to subscribe, to like, and then share. We will be meeting in our next lesson. Bye-bye.